Anyway, so let's get going. This is the Trusted Referral Network. We are a network of independent marketing services professionals around the country, and today also from Europe. Our focus is getting together twice a month on the second and fourth Tuesdays to expand our networks in the marketing world, look for people who we might be able to collaborate with, refer business to, get business from, certainly, and learn from one another. So we have about 20 members now. I always try to invite guests. We're looking to expand our membership. We offer a 3-month trial, and after that, it's $360 a year, and that gives you access to all of these meetings, a listing on the Trusted Referral Network website where you can collaborate with others, and invite other people. Like, one of the most valuable things for me is to invite people who I am looking to build relationships with to this network, so they can help, they can expand their own networks as well as mine. So our format is, we usually start with a showcase, 10-minute deeper dive into what either one of our members or one of our guests does, or something they've learned and want to share with others around the world of marketing. And then we usually have about 2 or 3 minutes per person. Introduce yourself, what you do, how you can be helpful to others, what you're looking for, if anything in particular, for example, who you want to meet. And ideally something memorable about you, since it's all about marketing, and we know that telling stories and making it memorable is what branding and marketing is all about. So I will turn it over to Rick. I will put on a timer for 15 minutes. Rick, you do not have to use that entire 15 minutes. They've changed the format or the interface of Zoom. So I'm looking, oh, there they are, my apps. I'm looking for my timer. All right. Rick, you should have access to share the screen if you want. Otherwise, you can just go ahead. If everybody else would put themselves on mute, that way I can highlight Rick for the recording. Take it away, Rick.
Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Rick Alcantara. I own Rick Alcantara Consulting. We're based in Turnersville, New Jersey, which is about 18 miles outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I have been in the public relations business since, I think, the Lincoln administration. I have worked with companies of all sizes, from one-person shops all the way up to multinationals. My goal basically is to help companies get their message out there, whether it's to their customers, to their prospects, or to their employees. But the two audiences that I really like to focus on, one is employee communications, and two is a lot of work in crisis communications. And I'll explain a little bit about both of those. So what I find very interesting in companies is they spend a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of money on external communications, through their marketing, through their sales, through their public relations, often at the expense of their own employees. So what I hear a lot, and I tell people, I say, if you ever hear anybody say, nobody in this company ever tells me anything, that's somebody I want to talk to, because that's obviously a symptom of bad communication within the organization. And what happens is, a lot of organizations, either they think that employees are going to be motivated simply by, pay or by benefits, but what they're really interested in is, are you listening to me? Do you provide me with the resources that I need? And am I being recognized for the things that I've done within this company? And if you can communicate those things to your employees, they're going to become more engaged. If they're more engaged, they're going to be more productive. If they're more productive, your company's going to be, better in the marketplace. You're going to sell more, you're going to do more, you're going to have better products. So there's a lot of incentives to having better employee communications. And that comes through, your internet, comes through, social media, comes through employee newsletters. More importantly, it comes through the communication from senior leaders to their mid-level managers, and from those mid-level managers down to the frontline employees. When I go into companies and I conduct these internal communication audits, I often find that a lot of companies, there's a lot of disconnects. People are not getting the right information at the right time from the right people. When you ask people where they prefer to get information, most of the time they're going to say their immediate supervisor. But that's the wrong question. You need to ask employees, where do they prefer to get information about X? So if I want to get benefit information, I want that from HR. If I want the direction of the company, I want to hear that from the CEO. If it's the day-to-day things that I need to do, I need to hear that from my immediate manager. So you've got to be able to provide the right information to the right person through the right channel. The other side of what I work on is crisis communications. And a lot of people are not very familiar with what that is and what that does. Most companies have an operational recovery plan, even smaller companies. If something goes wrong, what's our backup plan? Do we have a backup server? Do we have a backup facility? If this building burns down, do we move operations to South Carolina and start up, in another week or two or whatever? What they don't often think about is how is that going to be communicated to all the people that are stakeholders in that company? So who's going to communicate to employees? You can't report to this building because now there's a snow emergency. So you need to come in late, or we're going to close for the facility for the day. Or if it's a natural disaster and the facility is going to be, out of commission for weeks or months, what's our plan? So communicating to your employees, communicating to your customers, communicating to regulators, to law enforcement, to anybody, even your partners. What is it that you're doing? So what was the problem? What are you doing to address the problem? When is it going to be fixed? And what is that going to mean in that relationship that you have with those companies? When you think about crisis communications, it could be, really at any level. And it could be, you could handle this through media outreach. You could be handling it through social media. You could be handling it through a lot of channels of individual communications from sales to their clients. But the situations that could arise are multifaceted. When we think about crisis, most people think maybe of a natural disaster, but what about things like insider trading or a product recall or a product failure? For example, in the case of Boeing, a wheel falling off an airplane or the door popping off an airplane, that's a major disaster. So in thinking about crisis communications, it really is anything that could crater your brand and blow up into a big media event that could have an impact on your company, not just for short term, but could be for years in the making. So what do we do with crisis communications? I sit down with senior leaders, talk about, well, what could go wrong in your company? What are you doing to address those kinds of things, and who's going to communicate it? And what we want to look at is, who's going to actually deliver the message? Who is on this kind of leadership team, the planning team that's going to address this crisis? And, how's it going to be handled? The other thing is we've got to make sure that we get attorneys to buy into the whole process. Because one of the challenges that happens when there's an emergency is the attorneys, especially if it's your company's fault, is they're going to say, don't say anything for liability reasons. But you may be protected in the court system, but you may not be protected in the court of public opinion, because you may not have a brand left over if the media or your competitors or everybody else is just ganging up on you and saying, hey, you guys are fools. You didn't protect your public, you didn't protect your customers. The worst thing you could do in a crisis situation is the media is in front of your building. The building's on fire and they're asking you for a comment and you say, no comment. The reporter can see the building is on fire. And you're saying no comment. So that's the wrong answer. So you have to have an answer. You have to be able to plan this. So what the plan does basically is we sit down, we map out this with the senior executives. What are you going to say? When are you going to say it? How are you going to say it? And the end result is that the crisis is going to be much shorter. People are going to be informed and engaged. Your employees are going to know what their responsibilities are going to be. And the other thing is, from a legal perspective, you're probably going to have less damages because the people that you're communicating with are going to see that you're trying to address the problem. And probably the biggest issue right now that companies are facing are cyber issues, ransomware, cyber breaches. And the big question for companies dealing with cyber breaches is, are we going to even acknowledge that this happened? Well, in some cases, if you're a publicly traded company, you have an obligation, a legal obligation, to communicate that you've been breached. So what do? Well, you first of all going to reach out to your customers and say, hey, this has happened. But you have to be able to say, well, what are we doing to fix this? And, why did it happen? And, what's the impact going to be on you as our customer or our vendor? And if you can't address those questions in a very timely manner, again, the situation is going to, continue to bubble up. Some of the things that people don't think about is what they say off the cuff. And this is, again, one of the things that we do in crisis planning is to make sure that senior executives know who's going to be saying things on behalf of the company, but also what to say. I don't know how many of you remember years ago when there was the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And the CEO jetted down there and he was touring this, the site and talking about it. And in the middle of an interview, the interviewer asked him a question and he said something to the effect of, well, I can't wait till I get my life back. Well, that was very dumb thing to say, because he's concerned about himself, but not necessarily about all the tourist businesses and all the fishermen and all the homeowners and everybody else who's affected by this oil spill. So it made him look very insensitive. We also remember a couple of years ago, one of the airlines had to basically a passenger that they wanted to remove from the plane because they were overbooked, and they basically dragged them out of the airplane. And when they were asked about it, the CEO said, we had to reaccommodate this passenger. Reaccommodate, I don't even know what that word means, but basically, again, egg on their face made the problem even worse. So if you can address this up front, this will make things happen, much more efficiently for you. Some of the things I do is I actually tackle things like an active shooter plan. Companies have to deal with these kinds of issues as well. I built one a couple of years ago for a church, and you think about churches, years ago it wasn't an issue, but now with you hear all these incidents on the news media about active shooters going into a church and just shooting it up. It's a very big concern, but they also have other issues. Like the church I was working with, they have a preschool, they have a Sunday school. So what happens if they take the kids out on a field trip and the bus is in an accident? Or what if a non-custodial parent shows up and picks the kid up from school and then they disappear? Well, the church is going to be responsible. So again, planning for all of these kind of contingencies is something that's very, very important to do. So the people I want to talk to are those business owners or those C-suite executives who are in a position to know what could happen, realize they might have a vulnerability, and then I sit down with them and kind of map it out. And what I do is I look at their operational recovery plan and say, how do we integrate these two things so that they can be, more effective? The last thing I'll mention is social media. And one of the challenges we see, especially on the PR side of things, is going to be AI and deep fakes and audio fakes. And they're already happening. So what you're seeing, for example, was a couple of months ago, somebody created a deep fake of Joe Biden's voice and told the voters in New Hampshire not to vote because their vote wasn't going to count. We're seeing this in the corporate realm as well, because people are going to be able to create a deep fake, basically saying this is the CEO and this is the message. And it could be completely off message. It could be something that can really damage their company. And how do you know if it's real or it's not real? There's being software that's being developed to help try to interpret these things and root out the ones that are not real. But how are you going to handle them? What's your plan to address these things? So until the technology's there, you have to be able to be in a position to tackle these things. And this is kind of a thing maybe Rajiv is working on as well, is, somebody blasts you on Google, in this case, it's not just going to be a comment. It could be an actual video that looks, sounds, acts like you. If you go into TikTok, there's an account on there right now where there's it's complete deep fake, but it looks, sounds, acts, runs just like Tom Cruise. You couldn't believe that it wasn't Tom Cruise unless you looked real close at it. But other than that, it can be, almost foolproof. So what is that going to mean for companies when, they have no control over this? All of a sudden, something pops up on YouTube or it pops up on Instagram or Snapchat or anywhere else. How are they going to tackle it? And so unless they have a plan, it's going to be a major disaster. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Michael.
Sure. Do you want to take some questions?
Absolutely, sure.
I will switch it back to gallery mode. I have a question. Rajiv, you have a question for it.
I have a question. My question is, I'm fascinated by this deepfake technology. I want to know how to use it because I'd love to create content powered by deepfake technology.
A deep fake of yourself so you don't have to be there in person?
No, just other things. I mean, I'd love to have Tom Cruise as a brand ambassador for something I'm working on, right? I mean, just think of the possibilities are endless.
There was a
Yeah,
company, there was an article I read about 2 weeks ago, was talking about a company that's developing a virtual persona of you that could actually sit in on your Zoom meetings for you. So I'm thinking about what would that be about?
Well, Rick, how do we know it's you?
That's right. You don't know it's me.
You don't know it's
well,
you.
this is really interesting. So 2 months ago, I'm president of a trade association here in Philadelphia for communicators, and we had a speaker come in, and he was talking about AI and deepfakes. And with all our speakers, I invite them to create a video promo, of their upcoming program. So it's usually a 1 minute to 90-second video, and we promo those events in the prior months, programs. I say, here's our upcoming program. He did the video, he sent it to me. I'm looking at this video, it's 90 seconds into it, and he says, again, by the way, this isn't really me. And the whole video was just an AI generated thing. And it was like a shocker. So when we put that up on social media to show everybody, they were like, same thing. They were shocked. They were like, wow, I got to go to this event.
I was about to say, so we researched this because, AI and imaging, it's our thing. So I personally researched this when working on plans for our future YouTube channel. And I don't have the time here, but I need to look it up, but I could send you links. Now it's ridiculously easy. So 11 Labs is the company that's doing the text to speech. So you can write any text, and they create like a speech with a voice, and it sounds absolutely perfect with intonation and everything. But there are like 2-3 companies, I forgot the names right there, but literally you go on their website, you upload a bunch of pictures of yourself and everything, and they create exactly what you're talking about, your video avatar. So you can, and I was like, I have a post in our group of this guy, and it's like, this is me, and this is the video of my avatar, and everything in this thing is AI generated. The audio is AI generated, the video is AI generated. My point being that it's actually really easy now, like to answer your questions. Literally, you have 2-3 websites, you go there, you upload your data, boom.
Yeah, and the audio is much easier. A couple months ago, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal actually went into a studio. They recorded her, video. They did her mannerisms. They got her voice, and then she actually used the deepfake audio to call her sister. Convinced the deepfake convinced her sister that it was her. Then she called her bank, and they was able to authenticate using the deepfake voice, and she was able to get to her account. So these are the scary things that could happen. Where you see it in corporations is that somebody could do a deep fake, say of the CEO, and he contacts a CFO, says, I need you to send, $500,000 to this account. And this has happened.
Oh, so you have that?
Yeah.
Already?
Yep. Yes.
Oh my God. I'm getting the email version of it, but it's less convincing.
Less convincing. All right. Thank you, Rick. Rick,
Sure.
I have a question. Have you done any work in partnership with disaster recovery services companies? And the reason I ask,
I've actually talked to some and brought these ideas up to them. I've also talked to IT companies who are dealing in cybersecurity, or they're the outsource IT firm, and say, hey, look, if there's an IT problem, guess who they're going to throw under the bus? You. So
yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I think those are warmer leads because they're already thinking about disaster recovery. It is, and many of them are. I recently met a company that works primarily with banks, where it's a requirement to have a disaster recovery plan in place. Yeah. So those are potentially warmer leads. I think your biggest challenge is people don't like to think about, the worst that could happen, right?
That's the biggest thing. We're too small for it to happen here, or if something does happen, we'll just trot out the CEO and he'll handle it. But he could be on vacation in France, and then can't be reached for 2 weeks, So what do you do, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, listen, that was great. Thank you so much for informing us. We're getting some applause from Krista Giannak. Thank you, Krista. So why don't we move ahead? We have obviously 4 members, including myself, 3 other guests. I'm going to drop in. I'll start with our members. I'm going to drop in the chat. I don't know if it's the order in which they showed up, but Rajiv, Krista, Rochelle, followed by the other members. So Rachel, Terry, Mark, and then I will go. I'm sorry, the other guests, and then I will go at the end. putting this all in the chat. We could do 3 minutes. We certainly have enough time for that. I'm gonna, let's see, bring up my timer again, if I could find it. Apps, timer, 3 minutes. So tell us again, what you do, what your specialty is, how you can help others, how people can remember you, right? Everybody remembers Rajiv as the assassin for hire. He's already got blood all over his shirt. You thought that was a white t-shirt before. Looked a lot like Terry's. And also how you can help others, right? What can you offer? And if you're looking for something in particular. So, and also please go on mute. I'm going to go back to that gallery mode or the speaker mode. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Rajiv, take it away.
Thank you, Michael. Nice to meet you all. Good morning, good evening, or good night, depending on whenever you're watching this recording. My name is Rajiv Jadhav. I am the founder and CEO of R Square Media, an award-winning public relations and online reputation management firm based here in New York City. What is it that we do is we help you be seen or not be seen on the internet. The be seen part of it is helping you be seen as a thought leader so that people are hounding you and chasing you and pursuing you, demanding that they work with you and demanding that you accept their money so that you can service them and help them reach their marketing objectives. So that's the be seen part of it. That includes helping them be an Amazon best-selling author, helping them produce their podcast for them, either as a done with you or done for you. And last but certainly not the least is get them to speak on large stages like the United Nations. So if anyone here wants to speak at the United Nations in New York City, send me a text message and I'll give you more information about that. On the flip side of that, the not be seen is basically eradicating anything, any kind of harmful content on Google social and the internet that would take away from the confidence and trust of your ideal client or your existing customers. Now, what do I mean by that? By that, I mean 1-star reviews, bad press, your doppelgangers appearing on Google social and the internet. And all of this can essentially create a lot of disruption in people's minds to the extent of them choosing to either not want to work with you, to not want to be associated with you, or worse, evangelizing to the world how they should not work with you and should not trust you and should not hire you. This, of course, can completely torpedo your life, and which is why you need help, which is why you need to hire the assassin to assassinate all that scandal, all that misinformation, all those falsities that are being alleged about you, your company, your business, or somebody adjacent to you. My ask for this group is I want to meet trusted advisors or millionaires and billionaires that do dumb shit, which could be people in the room, because you guys have their ears. And I also do a revenue share with my partners, which is very simple. You get paid when I get paid and you get a 10% revenue share. You can either resell my service with whatever margin you think is appropriate, or I'll give you an ongoing revenue share. So that's basically my ask. And if anyone wants to speak at the UN, please send me a text. I'll put my details in the chat. Thank you, Michael.
Absolutely. So yes, I encourage everybody to put their details, their contact information in the chat. And I will remind people to download that chat at the end so that you have everybody's contact information. Thank you, Rajiv. Krista, you are up. Krista, go ahead.
Who trusts you and why? Krista Giannak here, wise words that matter, serving speakers and thought leaders. I'm looking to build more alliances with other marketing professionals who also value story, branding, impact. The whole purpose here is to position our clients for speaking engagements, to get more buy-in to their products and services. Because I am a ghostwriter, blogger, an amateur skier who just happens to be blind. I inspire people with that story, sharing my own personal journey, even though, or especially because I used to hide from it myself. Since I used to hide and now I use it to build trust, I inspire my clients and empower them through my writing services to use their own powerful stories to position themselves for maximum impact. All those ways I shared earlier about how they're making a difference. Those are the results where if they're using their stories and they're using their expertise in a way that is trustworthy and authentic, they can get much better results. Krista Giannak, ghostwriter and blogger, Wise Words That Matter.
Hey, Krista, you got another minute and a half. Do you want to tell us about any particular example of work you've done that where you've sort of brought out the story of a particular client?
I am a very curious person, so I love to write about all sorts of topics. I've gotten to, on the feature articles side, I've gotten to write some really interesting human interest stories. One in particular was about, I learned about a topic I'd never heard of, red tide. As it turns out, this cluster of algae actually is important to our environment. So it was really interesting to delve deeply. I know that's now an AI cliche, but I still like the phrase. It's to really delve into the topic and learn more about how some science fair students were able to actually learn more about and discover ways that they can use this red tide to they can use other less harmful species to outcompete the more toxic ones. So that was very interesting. And you know, for clients, it works the same way where I learn all sorts of new things, whether it's behind the scenes on a sales recruiter, whether it's okay.
That's all right. You can finish it up. We've got a little more time today because we have a small group.
Whether it's a behind the scenes look at sales recruiting, whether it's doing case studies for a client. I'm writing, got to write about a really cool new EEG technology recently. It's about writing about innovations and sharing the stories and what makes the innovations important.
Very cool. Thank you very much. And you're based on Long Island?
I am, although that doesn't matter now.
It certainly does not. Okay, Rochelle Lisner, you're up.
It's Rochelle from Dynamic Business Growth, and I always say that it's dynamic business growth and not schlep along business growth. You know, so many businesses, they're very concerned about their brand online. So they scrutinize every single word on their website. Some people take it a step further and they'll talk about their personal branding. So what is it about their personality? What is it about their skill set? So they go a little deeper there. But I don't know too many people, if any, that pay attention to their verbal branding. How do you speak about your company in a way that is charismatic, that offers people to take action, that situates, you know, that you're situated as the clear and only choice? I always say that when you talk about your business, are you storytelling or boring telling? I'd say 90% of companies boring tell. They go into, you know, they're long-winded, they speak in jargon, whatever their industry jargon is. And you basically, you're in pain as you're listening to it. I've gone to so many presentations, and I went to one with a friend of mine, and he said, you know, what did you think of my, you know, my presentation? And I said, you got me up at 7 a.m. to come listen to this. And if I had the ability, I would give you a fine. This deserved a summons. That's how bad it was. It was boring and generic, and it was just pretty pathetic. So I want to know, when you talk about your company, how do you pull a rabbit out of a hat? What is the unique story that based on that, I'm going to get to see your level of expertise? And and people are just so. Here's the other thing I want to tell everybody that I'm pretty sensitive to. So often people start off by saying, you know, my name is John Smith. I'm in ABC company. I'm doing this for 30 years. Whoa, is that a mistake? If you don't tell me why the 30 years are important, you just positioned yourself like the Flintstones and not the Jetsons. You know, if somebody's doing something for 8 years, 9 out of 10, they're pretty proficient. Rarely do you need that extra 10 years of God knows what you're mentioning to make that difference. Years ago, longevity created credibility, but no longer. Your credibility comes from your stories. I want to know what you think, how you solve problems, and that's going to give me the credibility, not your longevity in an industry. If we go back, God knows how many years ago, we used to spend day to day writing a fax. I mean, not a fax. We used to fax people. Nobody has a fax machine anymore. So what do I care that you are an expert in sending a fax? It's irrelevant. Your longevity is irrelevant. Your skill is very relevant. So again, when you talk about your business, are you storytelling or boring telling? I love working with family-owned businesses because boy, did they have a story. And also, I'm still looking for a group of attorneys that I can do a private group specifically for different types of attorney practices.
So Rochelle,
Right.
having very long PowerPoint presentations doesn't add to your credibility? So yeah, you see, even in the marketing business, there's a lot of firms that I compete with who they think that they can go in and just do these giant 1-hour presentations on PowerPoint and it's going to just impress.
PowerPoint's the worst because when you're working, I mean, people are like, why do I have like these flip charts? When you work with a PowerPoint, all the focus goes to the PowerPoint and you lose the audience.
Yep.
It's, you know, you just introduce the PowerPoint becomes like the third person that creates the connection, and the connection is lost from you. So you got to be careful. If your PowerPoint has a lot of visuals and not a lot of words, and you're explaining it and you're telling funny stories, then it can work. But a lot of PowerPoints with 10 lines of data on each slide, again, is one of the ones that I say you deserve a summons.
Very good. Thank you so much, Rochelle. Okay, from Rochelle to Rachel.
Hi,
Rachel,
everybody.
you're up.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Michael, for inviting me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and to meet everybody. My name is Rachel Levy Sarfin, and like some of you, I'm originally from the greater Philadelphia area, but I married a guy from outside of Toronto and now live in the suburbs of Toronto. So a little bit about me. I am a writer, editor, and ghostwriter, and I specialize in the B2B tech space. I got my start off as a journalist and then moved into the marketing side of things. And the people that I am looking to connect with are people in the software industry, B2B SaaS, who are looking to Rochelle's point, to be able to tell a story. I think that's one of the things that I do really well, thanks to my years of experience working as a journalist and also in content marketing, creating long form content like case studies, white papers, blog posts, all that sort of fun stuff. And I know that, Michael, you did mention a fun fact. And the fun fact that I have is that I run a dad jokes newsletter. You get one clean, corny joke every single day. And I love doing it. So it's a thing I don't charge for. So I can put in the link to that in the chat. But I did want to keep things brief because, to Rochelle's point, if you're boring telling, then you lose people's interests. So I will cede the rest of my time to whoever is next.
Give us one good dad joke, one of your favorites.
So that is such a good question. One of my favorite dad jokes is, where does a king keep his armies?
Where does a king keep his armies? Anybody have an answer to that? Any dads? You'll have to tell us.
In his sleeveys?
In his
Sleeveys.
armies, in his sleeveys. Aha! I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Good one. And do you take contributions for your dad jokes?
I do. So as long as it is, I'm gonna just drop the link in the chat. So as long as it is clean and corny, you have to be able to tell the joke either to your favorite 5-year-old or to your grandmother. Those are the
two requirements. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. A resource for clean dad jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay. Marc Brookland, take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm in Philadelphia, so it's good afternoon for me. I'm Mark. I'm the owner of SEO Locale. We are a full service digital marketing agency. We specialize in search engine optimization. We also offer paid search, web design development, social media management, all those kinds of things, but SEO is our core competency. About 70% of our business are small to medium sized B2C customers, most of which are located pretty local to Philadelphia, but we do have clients all over the country. The other 30% are B2B, a lot of tech companies, SaaS companies, and other B2B services like that. One of the biggest things that I think separates us from all the other agencies out there is our dedication to keyword research. It's our stance that that's the most important part of any SEO strategy. So we spend a lot of time doing the proper research and competitor analysis to identify what those keywords are that are not only going to drive traffic to the business, but also generate leads for the business. All of our agreements are month to month. We don't do any long-term agreements, even though we always recommend 6 to 8 months before you can see the full results of your SEO strategy. And I think that's just about everything for me.
All right. Anything there? I see part of the t-shirt, District 2013.
Track and field thing.
Track and field. All right. So you're not promoting anything. It's not the SEO Locale t-shirt.
No, promoting my high school track team.
There you go. All right. So I think Terry had to jump, right? Yes, he did. Okay. So I'll give myself 3 minutes as well. So I'm Michael Bendit. My core business, I certainly run this networking group, which has been a great help for me and others in the group. My core business is doing sales representation for software development teams. And most of our work is in the marketing world. And we do a lot of the basic blocking and tackling of websites, e-commerce sites, sometimes mobile applications. And I represent a dozen teams because of the breadth of platforms, languages, and other technologies that are out there to basically cover as broad a range of services as I can in the worlds that I focus on. The other world that I focus on is tech and startups. So we do work with small companies that are developing their first product. We're right now in discussions with a company that it brings chefs to your home, like an Uber. And so they already have the beta product out, but they're looking to upscale their team. And that could take the form of a fixed price project, where we do a complete scoping of the project and then provide a fixed price. And then most of the risk is on the vendor or my team to deliver within that price, as long as the scope doesn't change. And then the other approach is sort of time and materials or staff augmentation, where the client is essentially hiring a part-time or full-time resource. Usually those resources are offshore, but not necessarily. My teams I have some domestic teams, but most of my work is with my dual shore teams and offshore teams. The dual shore, because it gives you a significant cost savings while helping avoid some of the complexities, as you can imagine, that might come along with working directly offshore. So always looking to meet other digital marketers. We do a lot of work in partnership with other digital marketers that don't always have those people in-house, those resources in-house to do the work, whether it be because they've run out of capacity or they just don't have the right skill set for the particular opportunity that comes their way, and yet they don't want to turn it down for the breadth of other work that they might be able to deliver in their portfolio of marketing services. And we do have one more member who joined. Zev Gotkin joined a little bit late, but I'm going to pass the baton to him. Zev, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Michael. Zev Gotkin, founder of ZEV Media. A little late today just because we're having our monthly review call with one of my clients. That's why, which crashed in the same time as this. We're a full service digital advertising and marketing agency. Our deal clients are investing ad dollars, doing paid ads on all the dominant major platforms. Today, the two most dominant, of course, are Google and Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, but we like to say we're platform agnostic, and we help people sometimes get a lower cost per result or higher returns on different platforms such as Bing or LinkedIn or TikTok and other ad products, whatever makes sense for the client. We do everything from creating the campaigns and the targeting, the tracking, and very granular reports, and using a lot of third-party software to make sure we're getting the accurate data and customized dashboards to make sure our clients get the data on the metrics that matter most to them in growing their business. We also share our clients on everything, so they never feel like, what's this agency doing? Or they're taking our money. I don't really know if they're using it wisely. They are included as part of the process. We ask detailed questions and help them interpret the data so they know that they're actually getting where they want, closer to their goals that matter. We also do kind of, organic full spectrum of digital marketing. Of course, ideal clients, love to meet CMOs, other people in marketing and any kind of, whether fractional or at an organization. But we can do, sometimes our way in is a website. We do SEO, organic social media, and newsletters, email newsletters as well. So we really do the full spectrum, but advertising is generally where we push the most. And we're focused on hospitality and kind of like luxury products. They usually go together, often complementary. Hospitality is very broad. We've done everything from caterers to event spaces to travel, resorts or restaurant groups, different things like that. But we've done, we still get plenty of things outside that niche, like law firms and healthcare and tech, etc. We have a lot of case studies for all of the above. So I'm happy to meet all of you and work with you and collaborate. And thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, switching back to gallery mode. First of all, make sure, Zev, you drop your contact information in the chat. And at the end, I will encourage folks to download that chat. We do have about 11 minutes left. Anybody interested in doing a showcase at one of our upcoming meetings? Our next meeting is on the 23rd of July. If you go to, I'm going to bring it up. Give me a sec. If you go to the sign up zone, which is, I'll put it in here and I will share it. That's the link and I will share it. This is what it looks like. You can see we didn't have anybody for July 9th. We are completely open. So if you want to go to this link and sign up for a 15-minute showcase, that would be great. We'd love to have learn more about what you do or what you yourself have learned that might be of interest to other folks in the group. Also, we're always looking for to bring more people in as guests and as members. Of course, people come in as guests first, develop those relationships, see the value in the marketing network, and then will join as a trial member for 3 months, and ultimately as a paid member, which is $360 a year. As a trial member, you get the full breadth of services that come with the membership. And as other marketers have said, $360 a year is less than $1 a day. And this is a great way to meet other marketers who have specialties in other areas. And now I'll just open it up since we've got about 9 minutes left. Anybody want to bring up a topic, questions of either any of the other presenters or speakers? Rochelle, got a question or comment? You're on mute, by the way. Almost everybody's on mute.
I was just thinking, how do people handle connecting with clients right now? I had an earlier conversation. I'm curious what other people are doing. People don't answer emails. You can't get anybody on the phone. They might as well just rip the phone off their desk because it's just there for some sort of decoration. I don't have a client today that answers a phone. You might get a text response if you say it along with the Lord's Prayer, but other than that, that's not happening. So does anybody have a really specific way to connect with people higher end that they've had more luck with? I mean, I have a particular way, but I'm curious if anybody else has anything that they can bring up.
Krista has her hands raised. I'm not sure if that's a response, but go ahead, Krista.
Yeah, I wanted to say calendarize everything. That's generally what I do with busy people. If it's a priority enough to them, then they tend to put it on the calendar. That's my main strategy. I do still find that people respond to emails and pick up phones, but it's kind of it has to be high value and it has to be like quick bullet point emails a lot of times to get the quickest response. That's what I've found.
Yeah, I mean, certainly warm introductions are very helpful. I mean, usually if I'm introduced to somebody, we will get on a call.
Yeah, well, I was talking more
hour.
about, because she said clients as well.
It's both. I mean, I have it with clients and I have it with also when you are networking, when you want to reach somebody, let's just say there's somebody that would be a good networking partner. Like, what are we doing today that can make a difference? Because I think it's I have clients when you do call them, they say, don't leave a message because I don't answer this. I don't even know why they have it. I mean, everybody says it. Then I have people that, and this goes so against my program. You do get a phone message and it's got the robotic, you've reached 982. I don't even know who the hell I called. I mean, I forgot who I called when you get that robotic response. So that's a whole other issue. You can leave a voicemail because I think voicemail today is advertisement because people might listen to the voicemail. Some of them do. And if you leave some sort of an advertisement, there's a slight possibility they'll get back to you. But I'm curious, does anybody have like a bold, way that they have reached out and left an impact with either a client or a potential client or just following up with people that you're great with, as we speak?
Well, if I could say something real quick, though, following up, the calendar thing still applies for me with prospects in terms of when I'm with them, when I'm meeting them, networking with them, I find some commonality that we have. And if we approach it from a networking perspective rather than a sales perspective, I tend to find that they will book meetings right at the meeting.
Okay, that's a good.
So, Rochelle, I have some suggestions. And years ago, I had a client was a sales trainer, and I worked out a deal with him. I said, "Hey, the best way for me to learn about your business and to market you is to actually go through your program." So I did, and I learned all the mistakes that I was making that would result in people not answering calls and things like that. And one of the things that he said to do was to kind of set up this upfront, he called it a contract, I call it an agreement, whatever you want, as to how we're going to communicate with each other. So you meet somebody at a networking function, sounds like they could be a good prospect. You say, okay, we're going to meet on the 17th of July. okay, at 2 o'clock. I know you're very busy, but if something comes up and you're not going to be able to make it, how would you like me to handle that? And then basically discuss in that first conversation what you're going to talk about in that meeting, and say, we're going to cover this, this, and this, and I'll spend, X number of minutes talking about what I do. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, whatever, and then we can decide from there what we want to do going forward. And then when you get to that meeting, make sure that you, again, upfront, tell them what you're going to talk about, and then at the back end, okay, what's our next steps? If there is a next step, and if there is no next step, hey, we're both adults, we can move on, but if there is a next step, what does that look like? And then set up the next meeting. I usually don't have problems reaching the clients. I try to find out real early, what's their preferred mode of communication. Do they want text? Do they want email? Do they want me to send a passenger pigeon? I don't know what they want, but let me find out. And then that usually works out well, because some of my clients, they only want text messages. I have a CEO for an engineering company. I send him an email, I could go days without hearing from him. I send him a text message, he gets back to me in 15 minutes because I got a hot media opportunity for him. And the reporter wants to know an answer today. He's not going to wait 3 days to get the answer, So yeah, you got to match it to what their preferences are.
You're on mute, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. There was some background noise, which is why I put myself on mute. I have just started, I don't know if you can see this. This is my name tag that I carry around, and it's got my LinkedIn QR code, which you can, if you go to it's only available on the app, but if you go to the app, the LinkedIn app, and do I think a search, and then on that search bar on the right, before you do the search, there's your QR code. And then you can send that to yourself. It takes a little bit of effort, right? You got to send it to yourself, and then create a little name tag. Best way, because they will then connect with you once they've got it. Once they've brought you up on the phone, the easiest thing to do is just hit connect, and now they're at the top of your list in connections. You've expanded your connections. So I find that is a good way to capture somebody's information or have them capture your information at a networking event.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I also think about how do we continue staying in contact with people and leaving an impact? So one of the things that I've been doing recently, not as much, but I still do it. I bought a lot of copies of the book, Who Moved My Cheese? And that's all about change. So if I know of somebody who's dealing with a change issue, I take the book and I FedEx it to them. And let me tell you, that leaves an impression that you have no idea. People will not look at your email. They won't answer your phone. They may text you, may or may not. But I don't know of a single person that will not open up a FedEx. So if you want to leave an amazing impression, what will you FedEx somebody? And I also think that you can make more impact if it's something personal than business related. And I'll give the last thing on. Years ago, and this was with a client, he left the most amazing impression for me. I had a dog that went blind overnight. So when I went into the office, this guy, and he said, Rochelle, nothing personal, but you're like shit today. What's wrong? And I said, my dog went blind 2 days ago, and it's going into these, furniture. I really don't know what to do. So I come back a following week. He gives me a little bag from Amazon. I'll never forget this. In the bag was a beautiful card about a dog, and in it was a toy for blind dogs. And the toy had a smell and a squeak, so the dog can find the toy and play with it. Now, the thing cost him what, $10, $12? The impact was priceless. So what I'm saying is, if we know something specific about somebody that's in our database, and you really want to make an impact, and you want to make sure that you're not like number 410, you want to get raised to like number 1 through 10, send them something very specific, and they really appreciate it. I'm telling you that in Who Moved My Cheese book, everybody's dealing with change right now, and people aren't dealing well with it. And it's a great book about change. So they kind of giggle about it. And I have clients that resist it. And when I send them the book, all of a sudden, come on in, Rochelle, we can talk. So I just wanted to say there's an impact. If we can leave an impact like that, I think it's in all of our best interest.
All right. I just want to thank you so much, Rochelle, and everybody for contributing. It is at the top of the hour. Now's a great time to download the chat. So for those of you who are not familiar, open up the chat. There's these three dots, like, ellipses, and the first menu item is Save Chat. That will save it to your Zoom folder on your documents. So I'll give a little bit of time for everybody to do that. And do come back if you're interested in membership. Reach out to me. Trial membership again is 3 months, after which it's $360 a year. And our next meeting is on July 23rd at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Michael, before you go, can I show everybody just something real quick? This is something you can use to market yourself very effectively. Let's see here. I don't know if everybody can see that. So in my emails, it's this picture and my title and my contact information, usually just my email, and then the link that says connect. Then it brings them to this page, and all my social media links would be here. I could actually add more to this. But basically, I also have one for another email account that I have. Is basically the same picture, different color, different little bit of content, but it's something very easy. So instead of carrying around, like we were saying, the QR code, the QR code's right into in your email, but it's also on your phone. So all you have to do is just show people the phone, and they can just can scan it, or you can actually just send it to them. This software costs nothing, and it's called Hi Hello. So free is good.
Very cool. Free is very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Rick. I really appreciate that.
Sure.
And if you want to drop that in the
what is it? Is it an app or is it what is it?
It's just an application where you just go in and you just type in your information, you upload your picture, and then you download the little image
QR
thing
code.
you put into your email. And then when people open your email, there is a QR code, but they can also just click the image and it takes them to this thing that I just showed you.
Cool. Thank you so much. There are a number of tools like that, but this one sounds great. And obviously free is wonderful. We'll see how long they last. Hopefully they're getting some money somehow, or getting some benefit out of it.
There is a paid version, I think, but I do it for free. That's great. I love it.
Right. Great. Thank you all. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and definitely reach out to other people on the call to set up one-on-ones.
Will do.
Bye.
All right. Take care.